Welcome to Jazz Time. JazzTime.com is an online store that buys, sells, trades authentic luxury watches. We make these videos so our customers can easily choose the best watch for themselves in the comfort of their own home. If you like this watch and would like to purchase it at the lowest price anywhere online, click on the link in the description below to buy it at JazzTime.com. Today, I'm going to be reviewing the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Jumbo Extra Thin in stainless steel with a blue dial, reference 16202ST.OO.1240ST.02. I will tell you a little bit about the history, then tell you about where this watch stands in the lineup of other similar jumbos, then tell you about the case, bezel, dial, bracelet, and finally give you my thoughts and then try it on. So let's start with the history. Okay, the history, this watch actually has a lot of history. In fact, it is the originator of the Royal Oak. What do I mean by that? Well, the Royal Oak, this design that you see with this octagonal bezel and integrated bracelet, was designed in 1952, which is more than 50 years old. And it was the introduction of the luxury sports watch to the world. That's a big, bold statement, but it's actually true. Those two words, luxury and sports, were introduced to the watch world via this watch. Not this exact one, but this is a reissue. And I will tell you how it's similar and how it's different when I start talking about the specifics. Okay, but in 1972, dress watches were the main stay. They were almost all made of precious metal, like platinum, gold, white gold, whatever it is. And they were all dress watches. Now, AP, as a disruptor of the market, decided, hey, we're going to come out with a luxury sports watch, but we're going to put it in a super durable material which is stainless steel. And what they came up with was this jumbo. Now it's 39 millimeters. Now jumbo is not 39 millimeters in 2024, but in 1972 that was massive, and hence the name. It was called jumbo, and that name has stuck ever since. Okay, now what has remained the same? Well, the Royal Oak has gone on since its inception to be, I would say, the world's most iconic sports watch, in that AP has based their catalog and almost their entire brand around the Royal Oak, and rightfully so. It's a very beautiful, timeless design, so much so that even big name competitors such as Patek Philippe, Vacheron Constantin, Girard-Perregaux, the list goes on, even IWC, they all have drawn inspiration from the Royal Oak and have then created their own version of it. Patek Philippe created the Nautilus, which was inspired by the Royal Oak. I don't care what anyone says, it did, because it was created in 1976. This was created in 1972, which is 4 years earlier. And if you look at them side by side, you can see how similar they look. But anyways, this is the granddaddy of them all. And it was produced in this material to start with, and at 39 millimeters, which is, in many people's view, myself as well, a very well proportioned watch. And when I start talking about the details, I'll show you why I think that is. Okay. All right. So that is the little bit about the history. Now, where does this watch stand in the lineup of other similar jumbos? Well, the jumbo was created in 1972. It's since gone on to make many different variations. Now that there's so many different variations. The first one, I think it was a 5204. That was the first generation that was made. It was made for quite some time. But it had 50 years of history. I can't possibly go through all 50 years. And there's probably some of that information online somewhere. So what I want to do is I'll start from the generation before this one, the reference 15202, which was created in approximately 2000. And it was created for quite some time, all the way until 2022. That's 22 years. It was a massive amount of time, and it was using the same caliber. I think it was like 7131 or something like that, 70, something like that. And it was that caliber was the same caliber that they used back in 1972. A reissue of it, of course, making it, but the same basic caliber. And what was so special about it? It was extra thin. And how thin exactly? Well, it was able to make the watch 8 millimeters thick. Not very thick at all. That's actually very thin. Normally, if you have a time and date like this, like on their Royal Oaks, it's about 10 millimeters, almost 11, which is not thick either. But to make it 20% smaller, thinner, they really had to do some magic here to make it thin like this. So this has a unique quality of being large at 39 millimeters. That's large for that time. It's actually also not a bad for now, but also it is thin. So large and thin. It's a pretty nice combination if you ask me. Okay, so then you have that would be the size and all. Okay, anyways, that's about where this watch stands in the lineup of other similar 16202s. In 2022, AP came out and they revised the jumbo into what you see now. And I'll tell you about the differences when I go into specifics. But this is the latest iteration of the jumbo. So the jumbo is going to be with AP pretty much forever. It's their most famous line, really. It is what started it all. It's the original line. And they reissued it in 2022. And there's some really major differences that I'm going to share with you in a little bit. Okay. Now they do make this in several different variations, but in steel, they only make it in blue. That's it. Just in blue, at least now. The old version, they made other colors, but now they only make it in this one. They make other materials. They make it in rose gold, yellow gold, white gold with diamonds, frosted. I think, no, actually not frosted. I think they make it, with diamonds. They make, So they make several different variations. But, they also make one with like an interesting metal something bracelet. I forgot the name of it, or a bezel. It's like with a red dial. They also make an open work version. They make a lot of different variations of this, okay? But if you just want the base model, the one that looks like the original, this is it. It's a simple watch that you can wear everywhere, but it's timeless, classic. It's original issue of the original, so it's kind of has a vintage look, but redone in a modern way. I could kind of describe it as like, not Porsche reissuing one of the original 911s, but doing it in a modern way to look like the old one, but function and be mechanically new like the new one. Okay. So anyways, that's where this watch stands in the lineup. Okay. Now let's start talking about the watch itself. Now I know there's a lot of detail out there, and but this is a short video. We can't make this a 30-minute video. So I'm going to go through what I think is the most important things, and I think my opinion probably counts considering we sold like thousands of these watches, of not this exact one, but thousands of APs. Okay, well, let's start with the case, 39 millimeters. Now look, for those, let's make it really simple. Size is really important. It's probably factor 1 or 2 up there with the brand. I would choose the brand, and after that, I would choose the size. It's very important. So those people who have, let's say, around a 6.75 or even 6.5 inch wrist to 7.5 could benefit from the 39 millimeter. If you have one larger or smaller than that, then you could go with the 37 or you can go with a 41. So I'm going to say that 6.5 to 7.5 inch wrist corresponds with this watch. What does that equate to? Well, you could just measure your wrist size. If you don't know it, it's approximately, I would say, if you have like 150 pounds or even 140 pounds to, let's say, 200 pounds, which is going to be most guys, can really make this watch look good. You want to have about, when you wear this watch, you want to have the case cover about 80% and then the bracelet cover around 20%. That's a good proportion. And why this one looks so good is because it exactly does that for most people within that wrist size. All right. And at 39 millimeters, it really accomplishes that. As I told you, it's called the jumbo because of that name stuck when they created it in 1972. The size is 39 millimeters from my thumb to my index, from the 8 o'clock to the 2 o'clock position, longest distance across the bezel. All right. And the remarkable thing about this is that the thickness is 8 millimeters. Now, if you look at the corresponding 41 millimeter, let's say you have a larger wrist size, like 7.5, and you decide, you know what, I want to buy that one instead. Then that one, the 41 millimeter, I think is around 10 millimeters and change. This one's 8. So that's 20% smaller, or thinner, I should say. So it really is quite a good proportion, which means this one could easily could fit under your cuff. It could be more dress-like. You could wear it like in your suit or, collared shirt, and it would easily fit under cuff, no problem. Not that the other one doesn't, but it just if this one provides a much sleeker profile. And if you ask me, it's actually my favorite. I prefer it over the 30 or the 41. Okay, the rest of the watch is not all that much different. I mean, on the case at least, it still has an octagonal bezel. The polishing is still the same. It still has the beveled edge. So that doesn't really change much. Okay, now let's move on to the bezel. Bezel is an iconic octagonal bezel, and it has these hexagonal screws here that are not actually screws, they're acceptors. All right, not a whole lot to talk about there. It's just in stainless steel, and it has a beautiful brush finish. Let's move on to the dial here. Now, the dial is very important. Now, what is different between this and the other ones? I will show you. First of all, they're all blue, so that doesn't change anything. AP calls it Blue Nuat Nuge 50. I'm sure I pronounced that incorrectly, but it is a petite tapisserie dial, which I'm going to call it a blue small waffle dial. Okay, these little waffles here, they're blue and they're small. That's what this one is, as opposed to the offshores, which have a big waffle, which those are called grand tapisserie. Okay, anyways, that doesn't change. What does change? Now, you might think it's not a big deal, and I can say it's not that big of a deal, but the difference between the dial on the 39 and the 41 is that the AP sign is at the bottom. It's underneath the center of the watch. It just has a sign AP. That's how it originally was. And AP had done it like that for many years, but now they have switched it on the 41 to just write the words Audemars Piguet in white gold and glue it to the bezel, or not to the bezel, to the dial right under the 12 o'clock position. So on the top of the watch without any other words, simply Audemars Piguet. And actually, if you ask me, my personal opinion, it looks fantastic. I like it that way because for some time they were doing this odd combination of Audemars Piguet and AP, which is kind of strange, you know. Now they're just doing the words Audemars Piguet all fashioned in white gold. And it's a little bit nicer than other brands, for example, like Patek Philippe, which do not actually print their name in white gold. They actually print their name with ink, which I think is a little bit cheap. They print the name is the most important part. So you got to put that in white gold, or at least some kind of gold, not printed. And that's how they did it. But back then in 1972, the old school way, they would, probably because of cost and difficulty, I would imagine, they just printed the logo. And so that's what they stuck with here to keep it that vintage look. And they put also the words automatic underneath. And the reason they did so is because back then, automatic was a big deal. Now, like pretty much every watch is automatic, but they kept this vintage look on it. So they kept the AP logo at the bottom and wrote Audemars Piguet in ink, not in white gold, to match kind of like how it was back in the old days, which I really think is good because this is a nod. It's a revision of the original Royal Oak. Now, I think other brands really got to step it up, such as Patek Philippe. Instead of printing their name in ink, they should probably write it in white gold like Audemars Piguet. Now, if you want the newer style, of course, 41 has that. Okay, but anyways, that is the dial. And they kept the hour markers and hands also very long, by the way, which is a nod to the old vintage. Now everything's kind of going back to vintage. The vintage style is having long, skinny hour markers. Modern stuff was actually short and fat, which they went through a period of it where the hour markers were short and fat. And that period is gone. Now they're going back to this vintage look. Okay, that is the dial. Oh, and I forgot to say, did you notice how many hands are there? There's only 2 hands. There is actually no second hand, which actually unclutters the dial even further, and it gives it even more of a sleeker look. No second hand, hour and minute only. You cannot tell the seconds. It only has hour and minute. And actually, if you ask me, it looks really clean. I really like it. And, you know, let's be honest with ourselves. Do we really need the seconds on a watch? I mean, are you really telling time down to the second? And actually, do automatic watches even keep time to the second? I know mine doesn't, and most watches don't. You know, and when we set the watch, do we even set it to the second? I don't think so, you know. So I don't even see why it matters. Why would you have a second hand? And if you look at chronographs, they have a tiny little second hand running, but we don't even look at that. So I actually don't even think the second hand is necessary. And having it set up in this situation, it actually looks much better, cleaner, and it still serves the same function without losing any kind of practicality whatsoever. So I really have to give it a thumbs up on that. Okay, that's the dial. And I guess I should also say, I'll tell you when we talk about movement, which is next. So let's talk about the movement, all right? Now, this movement is absolutely perfect. I have to say is definitely better looking to me, at least, than the Patek Philippe 5711 movement. Why? Well, first of all, the new caliber, which here is caliber 7121, it replaces the old caliber, and it has 268 parts. So it's not a lot. It's a normal amount. It has a very good thickness, as I told you before, and it fills the entire back of the case. It's 29.6 millimeters, which is a good size. What stands out to me is this beautiful gold rotor that is nicely cut out, and also the gold bridge to match. So it's not, actually, when I saw this before, I've seen, like, for example, Patek Philippe, they make a gold rotor, right? And it's all filled in with all gold, which is okay, it's good. But I think it's more impressive to have the rotor cut out like this. It just, to me, it looks a lot better. And it makes the center of mass move out toward the periphery so that the rotor can spin better. I think that's also a functional reason. And then second of all, it just looks better. Third of all, it requires more work than a flat piece of gold, which is what Patek Philippe uses. And it looks a little bit traditional. Well, Patek Philippe is 170 years old, so it's understandable. AP is always trying to do funky new things. But what I did notice is when they put the rotor in gold, like in Patek Philippe or in the old APs, and you didn't do some other part gold in the movement, it actually looked kind of funny. It looked like a gold rotor stuck on a steel movement. It looked kind of funny. AP probably recognized that, and they look what they did in this situation. They put the bridge in gold. I think that's a really nice touch. It balances the watch so that it doesn't just look like all silver with a gold piece. And it's just a really nice touch. And also, of course, the movement is beautiful and it looks modern. I guess I don't want to rag on Patek Philippe's Nautilus. It also has its own beauty in its own way, and they do things a little different. So they're not a very modern watch company. They are a much more traditional company, so it makes sense. But anyways, we're talking about AP here. Let's stay on focus here. And it's a very thin movement. It's very beautiful. Has these beautiful bridges on both these bridges, the one that holds the balance wheel as well as one on the opposite side, and also the rotor. So it has, gold marks. It just looks fantastic. Has a beautiful finish to the movement. And I'll also tell you this, the movement now, as opposed to before, now it has a simple quick set. I didn't show it to you. You just simply do a quick set just like you did any other watch. Before, on the previous generation, the one created from 2020 to 2022, it had a retarded system, really. It did not have a quick set. Because it was the old movement, they didn't know how to do quick set back then. It was a reissue of the original 15204 back in 1972. So you actually had to move the hands past 10 o'clock and then go backward to 10 o'clock and then move it forward to 2 o'clock, and then the date would change. So so it only had two positions, closed or open, and you use the time to make the semi-quick set move. Honestly, it was a retarded system, which they obviously recognized that it was an antiquated system, and AP recognized that and changed it to a quick set because nobody knew how to use it, including me. When I first got it, I was like confused until I looked it up and I figured out how to change it. Even then, I never liked it. It was never a good, and you could break the crown like that by doing all this movement to it. So it's just better. Anyways, the movement here is beautiful. Okay, now let's move on to the bracelet. Now I brought another bracelet here to show you, and the 39 millimeter bracelet is actually, because the watch is 39 and not 41, it will have its own bracelet, which is thinner than the 41. So I brought the 41 here to show you, so you can compare the 39 and the 41 bracelet side by side. You can see the 41 has a thicker a thicker bracelet, as you could imagine, because the watch goes on a 41. This is a 39, so it has a thinner bracelet. So thinner watch, thinner bracelet, thicker watch, thicker bracelet. It makes total sense, right? But I just wanted you to see the difference. So that's another reason why, if you didn't want such a thick bracelet, you could go with a 39. A lot of reasons to go with 39. As I said, if you have a 7.5 inch wrist or bigger, by all means, I think this would be too small for you. Actually, you probably should go with the 41. But anyways, that's the bracelet. It's perfectly done. It's a very beautiful bracelet, and it has the same beautiful buckle that butterfly clasp, you click out. Okay, look, I want to try this watch on my wrist. I'm 6 foot tall, 200 pounds. I have a 7.5 inch wrist, and you see this watch looks perfect on my wrist. If you ask me for an everyday watch that is a throwback to the original luxury sports watch that started it all for every single brand in the world, this is it. And it has so much historical significance. It's beautifully done by a major brand. And look, if you want to buy this watch at the lowest price anywhere online, click on the link in the description below to buy it at jazztime.com.
If you want to find out more about the watch you just saw in the video, you can just click below on Show More to see the full description. Then you can check the link next to model as seen in video, click on it, and you will get to the proper page where you can see all the details. If you're watching on a mobile phone, you have to click on the arrow down on the right hand side below the video to see the full description. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. If you would like to share this video with your friends, you can use the share button below and share it on any platform you like. If you have questions, constructive feedback, want to tell us about some mistakes or misspeaks, just write a comment below. If you want to see more videos like this, you should subscribe to our channel and visit our channel page where you can find all the videos. And if you're interested in a specific watch brand, you can check out our playlists. If you want to check the price for a watch or want to buy one, remember at jazztime.com you always get a steep discount, so you should check the prices with us. If you want to know the price for a specific watch, just go to Google, type in JazzTime, plus the brand, model and the details you're interested in, and Google will find the right page for you. Thank you for watching.